This is GamerX20 and welcome to a brand new series called The PlayStation Years. On this channel, we're going to be taking a look at the first 10 PlayStation games that were launched in America of September 9th, 1995, but also the other 40 titles after the launch, in a history/review aspect. But first, here's a very quick history about how the PlayStation all started. The console's origins date back to 1988, where it was originally supposed to be a joint project between Nintendo and Sony to create a CD-ROM for the upcoming Super Famicom. However, Nintendo denied the existence of the Sony deal as late as March 1991, because if they actually made it and released it, Sony would have all the license to all the Nintendo characters, and Nintendo was not happy at all. Then, at the Consumer Electronics Show in June 1991, Sony revealed a Super Famicom with a built-in CD-ROM drive that incorporated Green Book technology, or CDI, called PlayStation, also known as SNES-CD. However, a day after the announcement at CES, Nintendo announced that it would be breaking its partnership with Sony, opting to go with Philips instead, but using the same technology. When Sony heard about this, they were shocked and embarrassed. Thus, the deal was broken by Nintendo after they were unable to come to an agreement on how revenue would be split between the two companies. The breaking of the partnership infuriated Sony president Norio Oga, who responded by appointing Kutaragi with the responsibility of developing the PlayStation project so they could rival Nintendo's next new console, the Ultra 64, later called the Nintendo 64, and Sega's next coming system, the Sega Saturn. At that time, negotiations were still ongoing between Nintendo and Sony, with Nintendo offering Sony a non-gaming role regarding their new partnership with Philips. This proposal was swiftly rejected by Kutaragi, who was facing increasing criticism over his work with regard to entering the video game industry from within Sony. Negotiations officially ended in May 1992, and in order to decide the fate of the PlayStation project, a meeting was held in June 1992, consisting of Sony President Oga, PlayStation head Kutaragi, and several senior members of Sony's board. At the meeting, Kutaragi unveiled a proprietary CD-ROM based system he had been working on, which involved playing video games with 3D graphics to the board. Eventually, Sony President Oga decided to retain the project after being reminded by Kutaragi of the humiliation he suffered from Nintendo. Nevertheless, due to strong oppositioning from a majority present at the meeting as well as widespread internal opposition to the project by the older generation of Sony executives, Kutaragi and his team had to be shifted from Sony's headquarters to Sony Music, a completely separate financial entity owned by Sony. So, as to retain the project and maintain relationships with Philips for the SNES-CD development project, which helped lead to the creation of the DVD, the Sony console was originally going to be played with CDs and cartridges. But after witnessing the success of Sega's Virtual Fighter in Japanese arcades, Sony focused more on CDs instead of cartridges. The title of PlayStation was officially announced in 1994. When the PlayStation 1 console was released in Japan in December 3rd, 1994, it was a major success for Sony's president and the company. Eventually, they want to become international when it was announced that Sony was going to release internationally in fall 1995. When it was released in Europe in September 29th, 1995, it was also a success and one of the most popular consoles during the late 90s. Since it was having a very hard time trying to bring in the video games in Europe, with some exception being the Master System. But what about North America, which was released in September 9th, 1995, aka 9995? Well, I'm going to tell you that when we tackled the first 10 launch titles, starting with a game that was a major hit and was the first PS1 game ever made for the system, and only appeared as a launch title in all 3 regions: Japan, North America, and Europe. What is that game? Well, I'll tell you that once it comes out in a few days. So with that, thanks for watching.